All right, so we're gonna do a little chit chat right now to kind of dive deeper into the business.
Yeah.
So, how'd you come up with the name?
Cactus to Pine. So when I first started my business, I knew everything I wanted to do was going to be inspired by the outdoors. It's where I get my inspiration. It's where I spend all my free time. So the idea is it's everything from desert to alpine. So Cactus to Pine.
Got it. That makes sense. I was like, there aren't cactuses in Atlanta or
Yeah.
Asheville.
No, I grew up in the Southeast, but I've spent almost all of my free time out west, everywhere from Utah to Wyoming, and so that's where that love comes from.
Got it. And if you had to pick one place in the whole, let's give it to the U.S.
Okay. Okay.
to climb.
Oh, to climb.
Yes. What would be your
gosh.
favorite spot?
Honestly, the Southeast. I mean, I love out west, and I know I'm gonna get some flack for this, but I think the Southeast has the best climbing. North Carolina and Tennessee, Chattanooga area, it's the best weather, some of the best, most beautiful climbing, I think.
Actually, fun fact, the first time I ever went outdoor climbing was right here in North Carolina.
Yes!
Right?
Okay, so you got a good introduction
Table
to it.
Rock.
Oh,
Yeah.
Table
I
Rock!
know.
So good,
Yeah.
so good, yep.
So, all right, that's how the name came around. How did you decide you wanted to start a business? It's a really big deal to go
Yeah.
off on your own and be like, I'm in charge of my
Yeah.
destiny, my bills,
Yes.
all those things. How did that decision happen for you?
Oh my gosh, I definitely fell into it. It was not something I had planned or even really desired. So I was working in the film industry in Atlanta, Georgia as a props person. I did that for 10 years. I thought that was my dream career, but I was starting to see it really burned out. And so I started kind of doing this pendulum thing where I would work one job and then I would spend the next 4 or 5 months blowing all my money, living in the back of my truck, dirtbagging it, and rock climbing. My introduction to rock climbing was part of that. Was like starting to have friends outside of the film industry, have hobbies outside of the film industry, and so as a way to connect with the rock climbing community, I started designing stickers for my friends. And I was just giving them out because I kept thinking of funny things, and I wanted to like give them out to my friends. And then one day someone at the gym offered to pay me for them, and they're like, how much do you charge? And I was like, bro, I don't even know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I had to start thinking of
Like,
things
how much will you pay for this?
yeah, exactly. I was like, you'll give me money for
Yeah.
that? Yeah. So it became a thing where I was like, I had to start kind of a crash course on what running a business is, profit margins, profit versus revenue, and stuff like that. And it started just with stickers. After a couple months, I had almost 20 sticker designs. I was making a couple $100s a month just doing Etsy sales. And that's where I was like, kind of like, maybe this could be a thing. What else can I make? My next product was a gear rack made with retired bolt hangers from climbs, and I made that as a gift for a friend, and then other people wanted it, so I started making them as well. And then the ropeware came in 2019, so still pretty young in my business, and I saw some people at my gym throwing ropes away, which they have to do for financial or in like insurance purposes. They have to destroy the rope so nobody takes them out of the dumpster and climbs on them. But my upcycler heart was crying, and so
Yeah.
I took the rope, and the first thing I did was made a rug with it, which I call that the gateway craft. Everybody makes these like woven rugs.
Yep, I've seen those.
Yep, yeah, very, very classic.
Yeah.
A lot of work though, and it takes up a lot of rope, and so that's when I started looking for other things. And the first koozie I made actually was for a mason jar, because I drink everything out of a mason jar, and it was so nice that I could just clip it to my bag with my lid on it and just like take it to go with the handle. And as I started selling those, it became like pretty obvious that it was a niche at the time, and nobody else was really selling them online, and I loved making them. I loved seeing people's reactions to them, and it's just grown from there.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like so many of the maker stories are kind of like, oh, I just thought this would be a fun side project, or I didn't have this thing, so I just started making it for myself, and then it turned out all these other people wanted it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's when, especially when you're working in upcycling, when you see something that can be something else, other people recognize it, but they may not have initially seen that as well. So like, you know, they talk about like seeing the statue in the stone. Like I saw the koozie in the rope or whatever, and now there's a more koozie makers, and it's more of a thing. But at the time, like it was pretty unique, and so it, like people would see that and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. And so it just, as it started growing, 2020 was a big year for me. The film industry shut down. I lost my job. And that's where I was like, I'll never have this much free time again. So if I throw myself wholly in this business, what could I do with it? And that's when I started diversifying all my products. That's when I started taking a lot of YouTube University classes on accounting and marketing and social media. And that was like really when my business started to blow up.
Yeah. So we were off camera talking about the dirtbag to maker pipeline.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you could tell everyone a little bit about that.
Yes, this is a theory that I have. So to me, the dirtbag to maker pipeline is this thing that dirtbags, like dirtbagging as a culture, you try to minimize your expenses. So you're always looking for ways that things can be more than one thing. Can your car also be your home? Stuff like that. And then you're also looking for ways to upcycle stuff. So rock climbers, like our ropes are our life-saving devices. We have to treat them very well. We usually push the boundaries a little bit maybe on how long you should be climbing on them, but for safety reasons at some point you've got to stop climbing on them. But they're still like a good material. So I have this theory that like dirtbaggers, because of our need to like not spend money basically, are really good at finding alternative sources of income, but then also like thinking of things creatively. I have so many friends in the rock climbing community that are amazing artists, that are amazing makers, and I think it's our way of kind of like expressing ourselves, and we live these kind of like on the fringe life that I think is very creative, and it's like inherently how you live, and so it just expresses itself in also like what you make and how you earn your money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I also love how the material has a story as well.
Yes.
And
yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. People will send me their ropes, or they'll bring them to me at festivals, and they'll have these stories. This will be the first time they had a trad lead. They sent this climb or this climb. This will be the one where they whipped and they broke their ankle. I literally had a guy come on crutches and give me the rope that had just put him on crutches.
Like, turn this into beer.
He's like, I can't even look at it anymore. But that's why it's such a magical thing for it to have this like second chapter, this second story. So it comes to me, I remake it, I send it back in the world, and it gets to have like another chapter in its life.
So awesome. And you talked about going onto YouTube University to learn about accounting and the business stuff. Same, literally
Yes.
same. Do not have any sort of business degree.
Yeah.
What about craft and like the actual like physical work that you're doing? How did you learn how to do that part?
Yeah, so I mean, luckily, again, with upcycling, there are certain skills that are like good to have, but then a lot of it is just kind of you're making it up as you go. Like, shockingly, there's not a YouTube video, at least that I'm aware of, how to glue rope together. There was a lot of testing at the beginning of different types of adhesive. The first tutorial that I watched, the guy was melting the rope with a lighter. Okay. And I tried that and it smelled awful, a lot of toxic fumes. It also didn't really adhere that great, and it looked very splotchy. It wasn't like a clean look. And so there's a lot of, I think it's more rewarding to like just kind of a test and find out, you know, method. And so you just kind of start trying stuff and being okay with the failure. Like, failure is part of the process, it's not the end of the process. So the first couple koozies that I made them with a hot glue gun, which a lot of rope workers use to make rugs or to make the line art. You use a hot glue gun because you don't need it to have any sort of real strength to it, just needs to kind of hold it in place. And then the first time I put hot coffee in my mason jar, it melted the rope and it fell apart. Or I would leave it in the car on my dash and it would fall apart.
Oh my gosh.
And so there was a lot of just like finding things out.
Yeah.
More recently, as I've started experimenting with just working with the rope sheath and being able to sew it together, which a lot of makers have been doing for a long time to make belts, to make dog leashes. And there's some really creative makers right now making like bags and visors and fanny packs and all that kind of stuff using rope as their fabric. So learning how to sew was something that I also had to go back on YouTube, and then also I'm lucky enough to have a really talented mother and grandmother who sew. And so a little bit of that was like feeling like I get to connect with them and like learn from them. And I call my mom all the time, the sewing machine is doing this, like what do I do? You know, and she walks me through it. So
that's awesome.
Sometimes it's like finding resources online, and then sometimes it's just finding the right person who can tell you how to do stuff.
Yeah. And like this inherited
skill
that not everyone necessarily has, but you have a family that has done it.
Well, and then also taking skills again that that are like kind of like, okay, sewing is a a skill that people around the world have,
Yeah.
but I don't know many people who are sewing rope together.
Right.
So it's like applying it in a different way, and that's where that creativity comes in.
Yeah.
So it's like I use leather cutting shears for my rope because you need something with like some real girth to it with really sharp blades. But that took a long time of me trying out different scissors and looking at different industries that also need to cut heavy duty stuff and trying out their stuff because it's a newer industry, I would say. Like the rope wear industry is kind of new. So.
Yeah. And probably we're at a time when there's like that amount of rope out there.
Yeah.
Because climbing has gotten so popular.
So popular. And then also I think it's just, again, it's people see it, and I've lost count of how many times people have said that they were inspired by my work to start their own work, which is awesome because every rope that we save from going to the landfill, it's better for the planet, it's better for everything, and also it's pushing kind of the art form as well. There's some like OGs. Mickey Tressmer is one that I was thinking of. Like I've been seeing his stuff pop up in Boulder forever, and he makes these really intricate like skulls and all this type of stuff, and his line work is he does these like portraits of like Jimi Hendrix and stuff, and he's like one of the OGs. And so to see how the art form can kind of like grow and change with every new artist that comes to it is really cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Are you what creative boundary are you pushing next?
Yeah, so I love working with the rope, but it is a little bit harder for me to source the rope when I'm stationary. So since I've been not moving around as much as I have in the past couple years, it's been a little bit harder to find the rope. And I still love working with it, and I still have my resources, but I'm always interested in new old materials.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great manufacturers in the area, gear manufacturers who make tents and they make hammocks. And so I've been talking to a couple of them about what kind of waste they produce and what kind of products I can then make. So it's always like, I don't just think up of an idea and then go try to find the material. It's more so I find what materials are available and then what I can make from that. So definitely expanding my ropewear line. The new cozies are the new stuff. I'm working on a hands-free Nalgene holder right now.
Amazing.
Yeah, because again, that's just stuff that I want, and so I'll make them, and if anybody else wants to buy them, cool. But just always looking to see what like picks my creativity brain a little